It's that time of year again. It's time to map out your business goals for the following year, in this case, 2025. And I know it can feel super overwhelming about where to even start with this. In today's episode, we are going to look at the 3 common mistakes people make when sitting down to do their annual planning and what to do instead.
Being an online business owner is full of ups and downs. Some days you can't imagine going back to your 9-to-5, and other days you want to burn your whole business to the ground. We get it.
Welcome to Chaos to Conversions, a podcast of practical, no BS strategies to grow your online business. Each week we're chatting about launching, copywriting, mindset, and more, so you can make sense of the chaos and do more of what works.
Join the conversation and let's grow together.
Hello, and welcome back to Chaos to Conversions. This is Melanie here with a solo episode, and we are going to get right into the 3 most common mistakes I see when business owners sit down to do their annual planning and what I think you can do instead to sort of fix these 3 major mistakes. So mistake number 1, not taking time to actually reflect on what even happened this current year. Taking the time to reflect is so important, and I know that it is really hard sometimes to actually sit down and pause, and sometimes we're too excited. Sometimes we honestly just don't want to think about it. Maybe you didn't make some of your goals that you were really hoping to. I know that happens to me every single year and most other business owners that I know. Maybe some things happened that you're not proud of, or you wish you could have changed, and you just honestly don't want to think about it. But if you do not take the time to actually reflect on what went well and what maybe didn't go so well during this year in business, it's not just going to magically change itself. I know that you know, but sometimes hearing it out loud makes it just seem a little bit more real. So if we're not taking the time to actually reflect on what you loved this year in your business, what you didn't love this year in your business, what worked well, what didn't work well, then you're not going to see any changes this next year. It's like the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So in order to fix this, it's a pretty simple solution, and you know what I'm about to say. You actually need to take the time to reflect on your business over this last year. So in order to do that, I like to run through a few different kind of categories and areas of your business. To be clear, I am all about making a business that works in harmony with your life. But for this particular exercise here, we're just going to be looking at sort of business reflections. So the categories that I like to run through when I'm thinking about planning for the next year, when I'm reflecting on the previous year, are, of course, income, revenue generating sort of areas of your business. Time and freedom. So that does kind of marry in a little bit, looking at your quote, regular everyday life and your business life, and how are those 2 things working together? Are you working too much? Do you feel like you have tons of extra time? How are you feeling about that overall? Team and hiring. Did you hire somebody this past year? Do you think you might need to hire somebody next year? Is there somebody on your team that maybe you're thinking isn't the best fit? Things like that. Social proof and networking. Did you participate in a lot of collaborations this past year? And most importantly, and this is something I know BRANDA's not on this episode, but this is something BRANDA and I talk about a lot. Did they actually work? Or was it just something that took up a lot of your time and didn't get you a lot of actual results, or none that you could objectively see? And then thinking about sort of any other reflections or anything else that comes to top of mind. So this is a general catch-all sort of category. So could be lifestyle related, could be business related. And as you think about all of these kind of categories, income, time freedom, team hiring, social proof, networking, did you collect enough testimonials? I forgot to mention that when I was talking about networking just a second ago. That's something I forget to do a lot. Ask people for actual feedback. So could you do that better in the next year? So, anyway, when you were thinking about all of these different areas of your business, think about, and I would personally suggest actually writing this down. What did you like or not like about each of these categories? What did you do in your business? There was something trending on social media, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago. I've lost all track of time. Sometime earlier this year, but not that long ago, like where people would post what's in for this month and what's like out for this month. So do that, but you don't have to post it on social media, but do that for yourself. Like, what did you like about your team and hiring this year? Or if you didn't do that at all, obviously you can skip it, but take a minute, because if you're at a point in your business where you think you might need to hire and it might actually make some parts of your life easier, take a second and reflect on it. So what did you like about each category? What did you not like about each category? What are your wins? What are your losses for each of those categories? And then any other sort of notes or additional things that you want to add on. The other thing to think about this is, did you notice any limiting beliefs that happen to be recurring thoughts throughout your business this entire year? Did you feel or experience any symptoms of like imposter syndrome, feeling like you're not good enough? I always like to take a second and actually write down those thoughts, because this is something that, again, I know BRANDA and I have talked about a lot too. Just taking a second to reflect and thinking about like your worst fears in business. And did they ever actually happen? Or are there specific things that you can point to say, okay, this fear, let's acknowledge it, let's accept it. But it's kind of a little silly because there's no actual data to back it up that I should be nervous about losing all of my clients at once, for example. So without looking at the actual data of what went well or not so well this year and taking the time to reflect, you're missing a really important foundational step of planning for the next year. That is the first mistake that I often see people make, not taking even, it doesn't have to be really long, but not even setting aside 15 or 20 minutes to look over what you accomplished or didn't accomplish and why this year. And even more than accomplishments, like what felt good in your business this year versus what felt really heavy and things that you want to let go of. So I really encourage you to take the honestly 15, 20 minutes and go through with yourself all of those categories and really reflect on this past year. The second major mistake that I see when people are planning for this next year in business is setting very unrealistic goals. Now, there is some science behind setting goals that are kind of outlandish that can actually help you to get closer to those unrealistic goals. I use this next mistake with a great big asterisk next to it. If you're setting really, really high goals in your business and you're not making them, you might want to think about kind of scaling back. And this isn't like a fault, and setting more realistic goals, especially if you feel like setting unrealistic goals is constantly contributing to something like your imposter syndrome. So goals that aren't achievable, if you're feeling this way, can obviously lead to like frustration, burnout, lack of focus, just because you feel like it is completely impossible. I would, though, encourage you could set an unrealistic goal monetarily or any of those categories, time, work, balance. You can set something that is unrealistic and then set kind of a middle ground goal. I like to call those your good, better, and best goals. And the way that I kind of think about that is that your good goals are matching your previous year. Your better goals are showing some improvement. And your best goals are kind of like that shoot for the moon. So if you're kind of struggling, like, where should I be? Totally set 3 goals. And then you've got kind of a range about where you could land. A lot of times business owners want to set goals that might not be completely achievable. And I mean, myself included. And it's not only about scaling from $20,000 months to $100,000 months, for example. It's even just having too many goals going on. So I really like to encourage people to just have no more than 12 goals in your business per year. You might notice the correlation of 12 goals, 12 months, because I really like to not have more than one major goal per month in your business. Please also keep in mind that some of these goals are going to take significantly longer to accomplish than others. So if you're planning to launch like a course, a membership, a group program, that is going to take more than 1 month. I would encourage you to, especially if you're creating this program from scratch, I would encourage you that that is going to take more like 5, 6 months, depending on the speed and the size of your team. So it is also totally okay to not have 12 goals in your business each year, because some goals that, for an example, might be like launching a course or membership are going to take substantially longer than 1 month to do if, you're doing it, in my opinion, properly. Okay. So let's try and fix this mistake of setting unrealistic goals. And the first thing I want you to do is make sure that you are really grounded in your big picture vision. So think back, if you haven't thought about it for a while, why did you start your business? Who do you help? Why is it that you do what you do? Once you have your why, the how is going to come much more easily. So make sure that you're not losing sight of your overall vision or picture of your business when you do your annual planning. Then, and I sort of touched on this a little bit earlier when I was talking about like possibly a course or membership launch, make sure that you're breaking those big goals into smaller, measurable milestones that you can actually put on your calendar. And you're not just going to write like, launch my course in June, and you have like 3 other big things that are not course related in May, April, and March leading up to it. Because we also want to make sure that we're really taking the time to be honest with ourselves and seeing if you are overloaded, how long will these goals take? And I know sometimes it is not that easy to just kind of know how long everything might take to do. So I really encourage you to build in some extra wiggle room. And I also want to give you a moment to encourage you and take this permission slip that you also do not need to have 12 goals in your business this next year. Maybe you only have one, and that is literally perfectly 100% fine. If your only goal for 2025 is to launch your membership that you've been thinking about for the last 2 years, and that's the only thing you want to do next year, that is more than enough. And you do not need to feel pressured to have 12 goals with all of these other moving pieces, which is why I want you to take a minute and stop and think about what is the most important thing for you. What is your big picture vision, and making sure that your goals actually line up and support it. The third major mistake that I often see people doing, and don't make this mistake, is not taking the time to actually do it. So if you've listened to the last 14 minutes or however long we are right now of this podcast episode, thinking about annual planning, thinking about reflecting and starting to kind of reflect on your big picture vision and what you might want to accomplish next year, that is amazing. And you can walk around and listen to me in your ear, chat about goals and reflecting. But there's something very magical and going to really help with your accountability about actually putting pen to paper, or if you're more digital, like cursor to computer, that is going to make it stick. And I really suggest you planning in the same way each year if it's possible. Like find what works for you, whether it's digital or whether it's like pen on paper, and try and keep doing it the same way. Overall, I'm more of a pen and paper girly, which is silly because yes, I use like Asana for my project management tool. But when it comes to actually planning and goal setting, I love Jess Massey's from Hustle Sanely, her paper planner. I will leave my link in the show notes. I am an affiliate for her planner. I love it. Check it out. Go to her website. And that's how I really like to plan my goals for the year. I love her because she is not just like business focused. She's like lifestyle focused, and a ton of people who are in her world are not self-employed. So that's kind of why I like her, because it's like the best of both worlds. I digress, but that's how I like to kind of plan my annual goals overall. And then I do have another area in my Asana that is like more specifically for business goals and less specifically for like life overall goals. So in order to like make sure you are taking the time to actually do it and actually take a minute and reflect and do your annual planning, I really like to guarantee myself the time to sit down and reflect and make the plan. Like physically block out the time on your calendar. And remember that you as a person and your business do matter. Treat your business like you would treat any other client's business. So take the time to do it. And then I also really like to put together that timeline. And for a lot of people, that is the hardest part. It is going to, of course, take patience to make sure that you are not so busy in February that you just want to like throw everything out the window because you overloaded your January with the whole new year, new me sort of mentality. If you need help to keep yourself accountable, or you even just need help taking the time to block off the 90 minutes or so that you can accomplish planning out next year, I invite you to join the Power Hour Planning live workshop that is taking place on December 5th. If you can't make it, you can always watch the replay. The link will be in the show notes. Annual planning does not have to be overwhelming. When you take the time to reflect on the previous year, this year's plans and goals will come so much more easily. Be sure you're giving yourself and your business the time it deserves to make this new year a great one.
Thanks so much for stopping by to hang out with me today. If you want to learn more about how we can work together on a launch strategy or grab a freebie or one of the resources I mentioned, head over to duxburydigital.co/resources. I'll be back here next Tuesday for more practical strategies to take your business from chaos to conversions.